Again. There we go. Hello. Welcome to the Opinionated Geek podcast. I am your host, Jonathan Hanna. There's a part of me that's like, I always want to mute my mic so I can do stuff while I'm, getting ready. But then every single time, I always forget to hit the unmute the mic. So, yeah, that's annoying. So, there's a whole bunch of cool stuff as far as the streaming stuff goes. Streamlabs OBS has done a whole bunch of cool new stuff, mainly because I haven't been doing my podcast as much as I want to. And again, we're going to have to do another discussion there. I'm tempted to go ahead and try to do the podcast in a non-conformant way, but I like the sound and all that stuff, so I don't know if I'll do it. But again, I will be away next week, so there's this constant do the podcast one week, skip another week, do the podcast another week. It just keeps on going on in this cycle, and there's always something happening where I can't do like every week. There's always something happening that it's bugging the crap out of me. But next week I'll be doing house sitting, and I got a laptop, but it's just not as powerful, and it's either my mustache or I got a hair up my freaking nose, and it's annoying. But of course, I just noticed it now once I'm streaming. So anyway, but OBS has got a whole bunch of cool stuff. I need to start streaming games again. I stopped there, and I just need to go back to doing it. But for their, as long as you're not in studio mode and you're actually in the live section, before it used to say, basically it just said whether somebody followed you, and that was basically about it, or subscribed. It kind of had just like one central thing that it showed you. Now they got a different thing where it actually has, let me go over into the live section right here real quick, because it won't matter because I ain't got nothing to show right now. So it's actually got, I can do right from the main window that it's showing. It used to be just, what was it? Yeah, just recent events. Now they have it where you can do right on the thing. It's got a box for subs, a box for resubs. It's got donations. If somebody donates, you can. It's got another tab where you can do giveaways. You can set up giveaways right, I guess, right on the fly or something like that. It's even got live actions, so then I can actually do Discord, spin the wheel, credits. There's a whole bunch of stuff that I never use, but I think that's pretty cool. So let's go back to the editor mode where I can do this. And then on top of that, one of my biggest complaints was they got this really cool app where I forget what company it is. I think it's Elgato. They got a thing called a Stream Deck, which is basically a whole bunch of LED buttons that are basically little screens, and you can customize the buttons to show whatever you want. But basically, it's designed to work with your streaming applications, and then basically you touch the buttons and you can do different stuff, and you can customize the buttons however you want. Streamlabs own application on their iPhone, Android, iPad, whatever they call a tablet for Android tablets. They have a web application that you can actually stream on the go, which that's what I was tempting to possibly do next week. But then again, I just like the nice sound quality and the room setting with my green screen. I just like it better. But on top of that, they got another section called remote, and this is I don't know how new it is, but to me, I thought it's fairly new to me, and it basically does what the Stream Deck does from Elgato. Although you can't customize the buttons, I would like to be able to customize the buttons where, like if I have want to talk about D&D, I just hit the D&D button, and all my stuff pops up for D&D. But one of my biggest complaints is like I still had to mess with the mouse because of being in studio mode. They didn't have all the buttons for studio mode. So now I can exit and enter studio mode, and I can transition. so I don't even have to mess with the mouse this whole thing. So that's awesome. I can go through my transitions, whether I want to do starting soon or when I'm actually live or when I'm doing a movie review. I got the movie review thing up. Actually, I need to do something about movie reviews. I will be watching the Bohemian Rhapsody when that comes out. Uh, so if there's any other movies, I don't know. But I needed to also just get rid of the movie pass and cancel that because there's so many restrictions on it now. It's basically pointless. But anyway, let's get on to the topic at hand. So it's been a long time coming. I love that. I don't even have to use the mouse. Dragon Heists was going to be my next adventure. In fact, we'll do this real quick. Bam, bam, bam. Uh, that's a little off. We'll just remove the ND thing and then do that. Uh, Tomb of Annihilation is actually, I think, going okay. I think the players are enjoying themselves. Uh, I'm 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 doing a beeline. I'd be curious about running it again later when I'm more comfortable at being a DM. But my issue right now with Tomb of Annihilation is I'm a brand new DM, and role playing is one thing. That's fairly easy in the grand scheme of things. It's making a hex crawl fun and entertaining for your players. That's the issue that I'm having, and I've already essentially gotten rid of the hex because basically the characters kind of cover everything. They don't need water. They can never be lost because of the ranger and just stuff like that. I just basically it's one of those things where it's like you don't need help. Uh, all the complications. Uh, the weather. I mean, you can actually do the weather where you can only have so much distance of like your visual distance and moving slower. That's really the only thing that can bother them. But as far as what you call it, eh, getting lost and having to worry about food and water, they got all that taken care of. There's no point in me actually trying to make this, a challenging thing. So basically, I've just completely removed the hex completely, and I give them the general idea of where they're going as I'm describing different encounters. So we've basically just gone to Encounter Fest, and that's kind of the annoying thing that I so far don't like about this is there's just in order to keep them entertained, uh, really the only thing I got is encounters. Now I can actually have them meet people. In fact, one of my favorite characters that I found in a bonus third party thing at DMS Guild is it was a little encounter called Tim Ray, but of course it's designed to the character is designed to be like Timmy from South Park. So he's kind of he can't say barely a whole lot, but he just goes Timmy. So I like that, and I think they liked it too. So overall, though, we've actually gotten to another small settlement town thing where it's basically a bunch of monks. So we got to do a little bit of interacting with that there, and that at least helped with the monotony of encounter after encounter. But soon, obviously, I can decide, being the DM, when they actually kind of get to uh, this town, it's not town, it's a city called Mu, which they already know about it, and they're essentially almost there. But I guess I can decide whether if I want them to be level 5 by the time they really get there. But we'll see. I just made them hit level 4 last session. But overall, I'm excited to finally get into that we're going to get into the meat soon, because they don't they're pretty confident. I think they're going to die. I mean, that's kind of what this uh adventure's kind of about. It's called Tomb of Annihilation, and it's loosely based from what I gather. I need to get the Tales from the Yawning Portal book, because that actually has the Tomb of Horrors adventure in it. But it's supposed to be loosely based off a Tomb of Horrors, and I haven't looked at it. They've actually, because they're all of them are fairly old veterans, like from the very beginning. Uh, they've been playing way more years than I have. They are familiar with Tomb of Horrors. They've ran it a couple times, but I'm hoping that this tomb is different enough that it'll cause a little bit of issues with them. But I've already it's weird when you're on the DM side of things, uh, or I'm sorry, when you're on the player side of things, you get that everybody's fairly intelligent and kind of comes with a good plan, and you can kind of execute that plan. In fact, the one time we were playing, uh, we actually beelined it straight for like a main enemy, and we kicked his butt. And that wasn't apparently planned, but that's what we did as players. And the DM was nice enough to allow us to do that, because he didn't have to. He could just say the location that you went, there's nothing there, or have just a random encounter there instead of the actual main thing. But he was a very honest DM, maybe a little bit too honest, because we also had an issue where we snuck up on a rock. And if you know what a rock is, it's not like, a stone. It's a big mythical bird creature. And it was sleeping. Of course, he had apparently rolled to see if he wasn't asleep, but apparently he was. So my character literally was able to coup de grace him and kill him with one shot. As a DM, when you're, I mean, it makes for a fun story, don't get me wrong, but when it comes to having this encounter, or, being honest, you might want to just have the encounter. And it makes it more fun for everybody, because, I mean, that was basically like giving experience away. So, something I probably wouldn't do. But, I don't know. I miss him as a one, as part of our group. He doesn't play with us anymore. I'm not sure if he ever will. I'm not sure if it's a political thing. With the whole country divided nonsense. But yeah, he doesn't play with us anymore. But I think he still enjoys us as people. At least it seems that way. But anyway, uh, they're going to soon get into the meat of Tomb of Annihilation, and then we are going to move on to Dragon Heist, which I have already bought the Fantasy Grounds the module for Fantasy Grounds, and I've also bought the Syrinscape sound set, so they can actually have all the whole thing's just laid out with the sounds. So if they're going to a certain location, I just put in that location, and then I got all the sounds for that actual location. So it's pretty nice. But on top of that, now we can do that and then transition. There we go. I got the book finally. This was annoying to get, because when I ordered it, I pre-ordered it, and I should have got it on the 18th, but I didn't get it on the 18th. On the 19th, they said, "Sorry, your package is running late." So, and then they're like, "Well, it should be there on the 26th." And then I'm like, "Uh-huh. I will believe that when I see it." Because they gave me the tracking thing, and it's been stuck up in Maryland it's still stuck up in Maryland. So they sent me out a new copy, and it finally got here, and they did next day air type of thing, and I was all excited, so excited to finally get it, because even though I have the Fantasy Grounds module, it's annoying to read on a computer. So it's nice to actually have a physical copy of, so you can actually read it. The only issue was the spine is loose from the cover, so the glue is not holding the spine of the book. So the glued front and back, where they have the little basically covering the whole front and back cover, it's glued there. That's the only thing that's really holding it in. And I went to go, even though I didn't want to, because I'm like, I haven't even really got to read this yet. But I was like, you know what? Let's just get it out of the way, because I'm going to hate myself if I, hold on to this. And because I know as soon as I open up the back page, just because of what's happening with it, it doesn't lay properly on the table. So just that annoyed the crap out of me. So I'm like, you know what? Let's just go ahead and let's get it fixed and get an exchange from Amazon. Like, and I'm sure they're at this point like, oh, we're just going to give you another one. So we're basically sending you out a third copy of this book. When I went to do that, they did not have that option. I could return it, and that was it. So I don't know if the second book, aka this one, was considered the exchange, but they didn't have an option, and they've always given me an option. But granted, this is the only book I've had an issue with when I've bought from Amazon. This is the first one. They didn't actually give me the option to exchange it. So I've heard good things from Wizards of the Coast when it comes to their book defects, because multiple people, which I'm blown away at how many people have actually had this issue, and that they'll show pictures of it online. It's like they open up the book and the book is literally upside down. And so basically just a printing book building error. I guess it'd be more of a book building error. So, the book's completely upside down. So online, everybody sounded like all you gotta do is email them and they'll send you another copy, and they even let me keep the old copy. Now, I don't know if that's 100% accurate or not, because when I did this, it sounded like on the website that I will need to give this book back to them. But when I went through the whole email process, they don't even mention anything about returning the book. So I don't know if I'll be able to keep this or not. If I'm able to keep this, well, I need to ask my one friend. I would like to really help him, but then there's another part of me. It's like, I would like to actually give this to maybe a school that has a D&D club and is, might be tight on money or whatever. It's like, it's not a perfect book, but it's still usable if they let me keep this. And I figured, as much as I would like to help my friend, I would also like to get kids and just people that aren't familiar with D&D, get them into the game, because it's awesome, and I wish I would have got into the game a lot earlier. But due to the Satan worshipping stuff and all that jazz, I never was able to get into it until after I left home. But yeah. But overall, I can't wait to start this one, because this one is only levels 1 through 5, and it's a book this thick. So there's a lot of stuff in there, and there's going to be a lot of role playing instead of a lot of action. So I'm excited about that. I'm going to buy some third-party stuff and maybe even some official stuff to actually add to this to make it more fun and give them different options. But I'm excited about this, and they basically Wizards of the Coast basically just said, hey, yeah, your book's on the way. So I don't know if I will be able to return or will have to return it or not, but it sounds like I don't. We'll see. And I will update everybody if that is the case. Uh, and I know I've spoken about this already, but we're going to talk about it again. Syrinscape. Syrinscape's actually, I might have thought about this. I probably not thought about it enough, but apparently with Syrinscape, let me bring it up here. I hate subscriptions. Despise subscriptions. I don't. If I can avoid it, I will avoid it. But so I bought in everything from Syrinscape separately. And as soon as I saw they had a subscription, I just completely ignored the fact that it was a subscription, and I was just like, I don't want that. But I didn't read into it. So I've done it. I did a couple of things. I actually went on their forum and I'm like, try to sell me this product to me because it sounds good, but I need to know things. So they did reply, and I think it's actually going to be a really awesome thing in the long run. So, Sirenscape has, you can buy everything separately, but you're looking at roughly for a sound pack or sound set. There's sound packs and then there's sound sets. Sound sets are a particular thing. So, for example, I have pulled up here Bustling Port Town. That's a sound set. It's one thing, and it's got a whole bunch of sounds in that set. And then basically you can adjust the volume and do all that stuff. But it's $4.40. That's not bad. But you know, when it just is specifically focused on one thing and one thing only, it starts to add up. So it's like, well, that's a bustling port town. Well, what if I need a different type of town? What if I need a church? Sound of a church. Then I need a sound set for that church, and can get expensive. There's also sound bundles, so they have like six, and you basically essentially get one of those sound sets for free when you buy that bundle. Nonetheless, it's still like $21, I think. $20, something like that you pay for those packs. And then of course they got the subscriptions. But my thing with subscriptions is you don't own anything. You never own anything. It seems like a waste of money. And a lot of with like music making and mixing and stuff, a lot of these plugin companies are going to subscription. Now, granted, you can still buy a lot of these plugins, but they're making it more difficult to find the place where you can actually purchase them. They make sure that subscription service is right there in your face, but trying to actually buy the physical plugins, it's a rather annoying process to try to figure out where these plugins are. So that's what I hate, really hate. But these guys pretty much are very open, but nonetheless, a lot of stuff is going to more and more subscriptions. And the fact of the matter is, you can only have so much subscriptions before it's like you have no money left, and then you're not owning anything in the long run. It'd be cool with, like, for example, I think they did it when they originally started it, but they don't think they're doing it anymore. But one of the plugin companies that started it to begin with was Slate Digital. When they first did it as a promo thing, I guess, if you joined for a full year, at the end of the year, you essentially are paying for a plugin. So then by the end of the year, you got to pick one of those plugins that you've been using, and you basically got to purchase it. So then at least, you know, for your first year, you got one plugin that you own. But, you know, it's like 15, $20 a month or whatever. But the plugins are 150, sometimes $200. So, you know, it kind of balanced itself out. They're not doing that anymore. So now that's one of the things where it's like you're paying for it. Granted, you're getting a lot of stuff, but if you're like me and you don't make money off of it, you're just doing it as a hobby, you're paying for nothing, literally nothing. It'd be different if I was like if it was my job and I was making money off it, but I'm not. But anyway, back to this. They have a couple subscriptions. They got the Super Siren Sub, or as I just call it, Super Sub. They got the Dungeons and Dragons subscription, which I'm a little leery about that. That's brand new because they just brought out their first Dungeons and Dragons sound set or sound pack. I forget how they. Anyway, so I'll get into details of what each of these things have. And then they got their Pathfinder subscription. Their Pathfinder subscription, they've been putting out Pathfinder stuff almost from the beginning, so you know they're good there. You're going to get lots of content. I'm not sure how, even though I realized that they are now sponsored by Dungeons and Dragons officially. It's one of them things where with Dungeons and Dragons, they're not unless they go back to the back catalog of Dungeons and Dragons, like start getting all like like for example, they got Tomb of Annihilation. If they like started making sound sets from past adventures, then it might be worth it. But right now, if they're only going from Dragon Heist forward, the Wizards of the Coast is being very generous when it comes to bringing out these books. Back in the day, with like, and I'm sure even before this, but like with Dungeons and Dragons 3.5 and even 5th edition, they were like bringing out book after book after book. It was almost like once a month they were bringing out books, and it was ridiculous. Now they're trying to build a community more so than making it basically making it a moneymaker, because they realize you'll get a lot more people involved if you start building a community. So essentially, they've been only bringing out like a core book and one, maybe two adventures a year. And that's my problem with the Dungeons and Dragons subscription. I don't know how they're going to be doing this, but if they are going to go back to the back, that wouldn't be an actually bad subscription. But yeah, they got the Pathfinder subscription, they got the Sci-Fi subscription, and I believe the Sci-Fi subscription also includes Starfinder, because they don't have a Starfinder subscription yet. But essentially, what's all these things have is basically, for example, the Sci-Fi subscription. We'll say you do get this. You get all access to Syrinscape Sci-Fi stuff, as well as I'm assuming Starfinder, and they also got Call of Cthulhu. They got the license for Call of Cthulhu sounds too. But here's the thing that I didn't catch because all I saw was the subscription. It says plus ownership of all future sci-fi sounds sets. Now, depending on the wording, a lot of these companies are like, you get all this. It's like, no, you don't. You don't get nothing. But with this, when I looked into it, they actually mean you get ownership. Like, you actually own it. It's not like if you cancel the subscription, all of a sudden, all those sounds go away. All while you're subscribed, any new content coming out, you get to own. So anything in the Sci-Fi subscription, anything that comes out while you're subscribed, you get that stuff to keep. Same with Pathfinder. Pathfinder's it's a little bit of a bonus because not only do you get Pathfinder stuff, all Pathfinder stuff coming out, you get all the fantasy stuff too. So if any general fantasy stuff comes out, you get to keep that as well. And it's just like that's the way the Dungeons and Dragons is going to be. But the Super Siren subscription, that's their big mother, and it's actually in the grand, it's not really pricey in the grand scheme of things, because what I said about the bundle where you got 6 sound packs, and it's basically around $20 essentially. That's cool and all, but it's $20 and you only get 6 things. The Super Siren subscription, you get complete access to all Syrinscape fantasy, sci-fi, and board game, plus ownership of all future Dungeons and Dragons, Pathfinder's general fantasy, sci-fi, and board game sound sets. So essentially, you get everything under this subscription, and it's only, well, they say it's $10.99 a month, and technically it is, but they charge you every 2 months, which I wish they would just charge you every month. But they charge you every 2 months at $21.98. And I was like, that sounds great. But what they also, I'll need to get into this a little bit more deeper. But just that, I'm like, that's a pretty good value. But here's the other cool thing about it. You get, by the way, I'm not sponsored. I'm just kind of excited about this, finally realizing this. You get access to the sound set creator and the servers. What that means is you're able to create your own sound sets. You might not be able to publicly post them, uh, but you can create your own stuff. For example, if I wanted some Lord of the Rings sound in my soundboard, I can do that with the subscription. They don't have that on in any other way. I wish they actually had a way to have a permanent buy-in for this service, but there isn't. And of course, all that stuff gets put on their upload to their servers. So all the Lord of the Rings, if you wanted like some Lord of the Rings music, it gets uploaded to their servers, and then you can basically make those sound packs, and then you can download it to the app. So that's cool. Also, another cool thing is the stuff that you're allowed to post publicly. It has access to community content. So all the community that's a part of this subscription, they're making their own sound sets too because they have access to this sound set creator. So basically, you got all that they're giving you, plus they got a whole community making. I'm assuming it's a lot of sound sets too. But I'm like, that's great and all, but I care about if times get tight and stuff, and I can't subscribe. What am I getting per month essentially? And I went on their forums and I asked them. And the guy's like, if everything is going as planned, there will be a sound pack, 5 sound sets, for Pathfinder Adventure Path out every 2 months. So basically, I get a Pathfinder sound pack, which includes 5 sound sets every subscription. Every time I'm laying out $22, I will, in theory, get a sound pack that includes 5 sound sets. That right there is the retail price of each one of those sound sets. 5 sound sets is around $22. So right there, I'm making the money back. Plus monsters and or locations in the off month. So during the other month, I'll get that stuff too. Additionally, there will be content released for D&D. All of this is released in the fantasy sections. Roughly the same happens for the sci-fi player with Call of Cthulhu and Starfinder. And then, of course, he gave me a link to the release schedule. Then he says, we are a little behind, but we are catching up. So if you break it down, you should get 3 to 4 sound sets per month per player. So I'm not really concerned about the board games. The board games, it looks like it's a dead thing, and I find it kind of pointless to begin with anyway. So I'm not really looking at that. But, so 3 to 4 sound sets per month. So we'll say we'll go on the light end. So you're getting 6 per month. So I'm getting 12 sound sets every time I pay the $22. Sounds like a deal to me. So that's what I'm doing, and because I really like the idea. And our one player has talked about in the possible future doing a Starfinder type thing because he really, I guess, likes the sci-fi stuff. Don't really have an opinion about it. I'd be kind of curious to see how Starfinder worked. I'm assuming it's going to be more updated compared to Pathfinder because it's the same creators who did Pathfinder. So hopefully it's a little bit better. than the original Pathfinder, because Pathfinder, it gets pretty pretty dang long in the tooth when it comes to battling in later levels. Alrighty. And there's somebody at my door, and we are not going to answer it. Okay, so they probably wanting to mow my grass. I'm not doing the mowing of grass thing. All right, next up. Uh, so I played the first episode of Life is Strange. 2, that is. All right. Here's my issue. It's a great story. I even got teary eyed a couple times, but nonetheless, it's it's still they went a route that they didn't need to. But again, this is what the left does nowadays. They have to virtue signal. They have to, like, we need to prove our point of where we are on the political spectrum, and we must do that any way possible. So let's make a point, even though that point doesn't need to be said because of what the game is about. So you play as a brother guiding a little brother. There might be speculation that maybe you get to be the brother with powers later, but you are not right now. So you get to play the older brother right away. The neighbor, I can understand this because he's a kid in high school, but your neighbor, he's a little shit, and you eventually get into a fight. You knock him down. He has a little episode essentially, and there was fake blood due to it being near Halloween and all this shit. And eventually, a cop rolls up. He starts to freak out because he seems like he's not experienced enough. So, no matter what, he pulls the gun out on the kids. And as far I need to clarify, the kids are Mexican, not the neighbor that's a little shit, but the characters you play, they're Mexican. And of course, the dad comes out and tries to de-escalate it, but of course nobody's listening. That's the rule of thumb. The guy's saying, stop, don't move, and of course, everybody keeps on moving. So naturally, the cop panics and shoots the dad, and then that's when the explosion happens, and you come to find out that you or your brother have killed the cop because of this phenomenon. So, and in theory, you actually kind of possibly would think that you even killed the neighbor too. You're not sure. But either way, you wake up out of your daze and you're like, well, my dad's dead, the cop's dead, my neighbor's possibly dead. I'm going to run. I mean, it is what it is, and people do stupid stuff when they're on an emotional high, but nonetheless, you ran. But let's get back to the neighbor though. The neighbor, before you got into a fight with him, made a couple suggestions that you are not a legal citizen. And as far as I know, it doesn't say in the game whether you are or not. And again, to me, overall, that doesn't really matter. My thought is he's a high school kid, and high school kids say shitty things and they do shitty things. So I look at that as just saying, you know, saying somebody's gay when they're not gay, or meaning it in a derogatory term. I used to do it. Everybody, I think, my age at one point used to do that. Gay used to be a normal thing, saying it as a derogatory term. And I've, for the most, no, yeah, I have grown out of it. I don't really say it at all. I mean, once in a blue moon, it might slip out nowadays, but very rarely. So I've kind of grown out of that. but of course you run away. That that should be the topic of the game. It doesn't matter whether you accidentally killed a cop. You killed a cop and then you ran. So now you are definitely a fugitive. The whole building a wall, illegal aliens, or whatever you want to call them, that shouldn't even be a topic of discussion in this game because you killed somebody. That it's almost like they're like, in this weird, messed up way, it's almost like they're saying it's okay that you killed a cop, and it's okay that you ran away. Because look at these shitty white people. And them thinking you're an illegal, or the fact that even if you are illegal, that you shouldn't be here, type of thing. That's then kind of the narrative that I'm getting. Now, don't get me wrong, I like the story, love it, but it seems like they just tacked on this narrative just to kind of virtual signal, and to me, it's kind of bullshit. And I would rather just see them focus on the real issue at hand. These kids are now parentless. They killed a cop. They're running from the law. And that's the real issue. And you as the older brother, you're playing the older brother, you have to make decisions to make sure your younger brother ends up to be a good person. Because I have a feeling that, well, already, I've already learned from a couple of like hints and stuff from other playthroughs. If you're going to be a shitty person, your brother's going to end up doing shitty stuff too. So he's going to start stealing if you decide to steal, stuff like that. And I feel like because of this kid's powers, you need to make sure that he grows up to be a responsible, uh, good human being. Otherwise, this kid's going to use these powers for wrong and evil purposes. And I feel like that, and just the idea of whether you're going to, what you're going to do with the actual, if you're going to continue the run or you're going to turn yourself in type of thing. I think that should be the narrative. Uh, but I guess they're going to throw the political stuff at you in the process. But again, I'm a center. You know, I'm a libertarian type of person, so I'm kind of just one of them people who's like, just stay out of my life, and I'm cool with doing whatever you want to do, and let me keep my money, and you do you, and I'll do me, type of thing. I've always kind of been like that, so I'm okay with just playing the game, but I just really don't think that narrative even has to be acknowledged because you've got other stuff that you need to be worrying about. To me, anyway. But I'm just not one of those types of people. It's like it's like every little amount of thing. It's like, what can we do to say we hate the right, or what can we do to say we hate the left? Must be some way. Uh, if you do something wrong, I'll point it out. If you do something right, I'll point it out. I'm not really on any fence because either way, I never get anybody who I want to be in office and president and all that crap. So anyway, yeah, that's Life is Strange too. We'll see how it goes. Again, I liked it from what I played with it. I watched Jesse and Dodger's playthrough, and I used the Steam controller. And there's a mechanic where you're an artistic guy, so you can sit down and draw stuff. It took me forever to draw the first drawing. And I don't know why. The second drawing went a little bit quicker, but with when I watched Dodger and Jesse Cox play it, it almost like as soon as they said, "Oh, let's draw," and then they started, it basically filled out very quickly. So I'm like, but they were using mouse and keyboard to play it, and I'm like, maybe I need to start using the mouse when it comes time to draw because the controller was taking forever. Because it seemed like all you had to do with the mouse is hold down the button and just like wiggle it. Where the controller, you basically just used the joystick, and I just kept on going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, up and down, up and down, up and down, circle, circle. It was taking forever. So I don't know what the deal is when it comes to the controller, but it seems to be mouse and keyboard works a lot better. Uh, but yeah, let's move on to the next thing. Uh, Wheel of Time. So I don't know the overall process when it comes to rights, ordering, uh, and all that stuff. So as far as I know, what happens is they buy the rights, then they have somebody that makes a script. Well, I guess they get a couple of people lined up for like who's going to do the show and all that stuff, and then they're like, well, let's see, we're going to do have this person be the producer. This going person's going to write and all that stuff. But overall, even though they own the rights and they're picking out these people, they still don't. They're still not saying yes, this is going to happen. So I think they said they ordered. Yeah, that's what they did. They ordered uh uh like so many shows type of thing. And apparently that still doesn't mean anything. It just says, yeah, I guess you get the stuff gets in the process. So I'm assuming you do storyboards, you write the scripts and all that stuff, and then you go to an office and present it to them and like this is going to be the show and this is how we think it's going to be. I think that's I guess what's going to happen, how it happens. And then there's the official green light, and Amazon officially, I need to get my words down. I'm very, I guess because I'm not positive. I'm not like this. I'm just talking out of my ass a lot of times. Uh, I guess they greenlit it, so that means this is finally happening. And I think they're like going what was it, eight episodes? Uh, Season one of Amazon Prime. Blah blah blah. Yeah, it's either 8 or 10 episode. Now, if you don't know the Wheel of Time, it's like 14 books, maybe more. Uh, so they got a lot of content if they want to do it properly. But I'm excited about this because everything everything coming out of Netflix's Witcher, it's making me kind of nauseous. I'm just like, I don't even like Henry Cavill, and then you're like, you're messing with uh characters that have already been uh in place when it comes to their character and whatnot. And then they're like, well, we need to, virtual signal and make everything inclusive. So then they're like, we need to find somebody that's a minority to make sure we place the Surrey character. It's just, I'm not one of them people that's like going to go on Twitter and do death threats and all that stuff. But I'm like, it's stupid and it's a complete turnoff. Just like if I knew the material from anything and I found out that you know person was like Asian or uh black, or is Arab the right term? I don't think it is. Anyway, and I found out they made him white. Just I don't know why they would make him white, but it would annoy the crap out of me. But again, I wouldn't be one of the people who's like, let's do some death threats and let's basically get the showrunner to leave social media type of thing. That's just stupid to me. But I'll voice my opinion in my own personal little circle, but I'm not going to go out of my way to make sure that those people that are making the show, because overall they're not going to listen, they're not going to care. That just makes them want to do it more. That's just like the whole. I feel like the left, uh, the way they're treating it right, it's just like a little kid. You're going to tell some kid, a little kid that you don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. This isn't. That kid is going to try harder to do what you say not to do. And that's a kind of what's going on in what I see with the US. You keep on saying don't do this, they're going to do it more often and more not violently, noticeably, maybe. I don't know the word I'm looking for. Anyway, that is it for this podcast. Again, won't have a podcast next week because life just keeps on getting in the way. But yeah. Anyway, I'll see you when I see you. I guess not next week, but the week after that. And hopefully I'll have more information about games and stuff. And maybe I'll play some games. I should do that. Anyway, thanks for watching. Bye.